totally formal, so please know if you need to get up and oh, I didn't show anybody our smart bathroom, did you?
Yes, we did.
You did?
We did. And let me
Oh, well, there is a smart bathroom right out here. The second door on the right, and you will have to try it out. But if you need to use the restroom, there's a restroom over there. There's also one if you go through the elevator lobby and head back towards CAT. There's bathrooms there. So feel free to do that. Feel free to get drinks. But we're now going to start our panel. So again, I'm Debbie Backus. I'm VP of Research and Innovation here at Shepherd Center. I get to lead this panel, and I'm really excited because it's a lot of fun to do what we're going to do next, or at least I hope you agree with me at the end of it. We have a unique opportunity to really move beyond a generic discussion of accessibility and create a conversation around universal design, human-centered design, lived experience, assistive technology, and the built environment, and see how they all intersect. And hopefully you got to see a little bit of that on your tours. We have our esteemed panelists here who all come from different areas but have complementary perspectives that will get us started with our discussion this evening. We have Chris Maurer, who you all got to see and meet, our manager of the Center for Assistive Technologies. She's an OT with, oh my God, I know, it's I know. How many years have I worked with her? I have no idea why I just said OT. That's like a really bad mistake.
OTs aren't bad. She's a PT.
I'm a PT, and I know she's a PT. Just like Dr. Sprinkle over there. I know you're a PT as well. So, a physical therapist. Oh. With expertise in assistive technology, adaptive solutions, and you heard about some of that already, disability innovation, and real-world problem-solving, which she does as a physical therapist, working with people for many, many years, just a few, with the kinds of challenges we've talked about this evening. Dr. John Morris, at that end, is the director of our User Experience Research and Innovation Lab. He brings expertise in user experience, human-centered design, disability advocacy, and systems thinking. Scott Kirk, which I think many of you already know, is our architect, who, if you didn't see it already, made sure that we have a neuron in the floor, right there. I asked for a chandelier, I was told no, which I totally expected, but Scott ensured that we had a neuron put in this floor here. Scott has expertise in architecture, interior architecture, commercial healthcare, corporate, residential, and hospitality design. And then, last but not least, Lisa Brunson is a parent with lived experience of a young man with spinal cord injury and brings interior design perspective. And from what I hear, has done an amazing job, remarkable and amazing job, translating principles into beautiful functional spaces. So there are panelists this evening, but you all are part of this experience and this conversation. We're going to use a fishbowl approach, which is designed to create more engaging conversation and to get as many perspectives as possible. Because you all have experiences and expertise in your own right, and so we want to hear from you about those. So rather than having anybody on the panel speak for a long time, we're going to begin with a discussion centered around some questions that we pulled together. And as the conversation unfolds, we're going to invite you as audience members to come up and participate. That might be with an additional question. It might be with additional insight in relation to a question that was asked. These seats at the end and spaces at the end for those who are using wheeled mobility are for those people who want to come up and participate. The goal is to create a dynamic conversation and exchange of ideas where everyone can learn from one another. You've heard about their different perspectives, you have them as well. So we encourage curiosity, we encourage discussion and thoughtful dialogue. We want to hear diverse viewpoints as we explore today's topic. So whether you're coming from residential or commercial design, technology, healthcare, lived experience, we want you to share. One of the reasons we're using the format, as I said, is that we all benefit. No single profession, no single person with a lived experience has all of the answers. It all depends on So today's conversation is all about learning from one another and sharing with one another about how residential design, commercial design, technology, and healthcare can all come together to build a world where it creates spaces that work for everyone. So the rules are simply, I'm going to have to start with some questions. You don't have to raise your hand. You don't have to say, nothing. You just can get up and come up here and take one of these spots. You cannot stay there the rest of the night. And I will have to kick you out if you get comfortable. But because we want as many diverse insights as we possibly can, okay? And what else should I say? Yes, come up, take one of the seats or spaces, ask your question, share your perspective, and then kindly leave. And you guys stay. Do not leave, please. Okay, any questions? Feel good about it? Okay, well, I'll start with some questions then. All right, this is for each of you to kick off your thoughts, okay? All y'all, it's for all y'all. All y'all. Universal design means different things to different people, right? So when you hear the phrase universal design, what does it mean from your perspective, and why is it important today? Does anybody want to go first? I thought you were going to raise your hand. Okay, Chris, you can go first. Oh yeah, you have this one. I'll give it
Okay, so I feel like universal design is a common term everybody should be aware of, that it is creating an environment and products and spaces that fit the widest range of people without needing adaptation, right? So it's universal. From our perspective, we see a ton of people that have amazing capabilities, but their environment is the barrier to allow them to carry them out. So universal design in theory is what would help them be more independent. I think in theory, universal design is good, but I might blow that up a little bit in that what we see every day is that there are so varied amounts of people with varying amounts of function and abilities and ways in which they perform them, and that there is no one way to meet everybody's needs. Really, what I would think would be the most accurate way to describe it is an inclusive design theory, in that the environment's adaptable to adapt to everybody's different ways of doing things. I think one way fits all is really hard to achieve. In theory, it sounds good, but I don't know how practical it can be in the end.
Oh, it's on me. Well, I think I would echo what Chris said, and we heard it in the tours that no one design fits all. We have to meet people where they're at, and our patients particularly present in very unique ways, even if they have the same diagnosis. But coming back to universal design, I think it's an attempt to establish some sort of baseline of accessibility and usability for everybody, and to maximally use an object or access an environment to the most that everyone can, right? So I think there's some tension between sort of trying to sort of have some basic principles of access for all, but also recognizing that we have sort of people with unique access needs and use needs. And so in that, I think there's some tension there. But again, I think universal design is an attempt to at least establish some set of principles to ensure access and use and maximal access and use for all. Lisa?
I'll address it from a personal standpoint. Probably accessibility was not forefront in our minds 15 years ago. 10 years ago, it became immediate of a need when our son was injured and became a C5 quadriplegic. So he, from that point on, has been in a wheelchair. And we just recently went through a bill where my husband and I live, and we approached it from, of course, we want our son to be able to come and be able to access, every aspect of the house, because previously he could not, the house that was there previously. And we also approached it, we have aging parents, so they can come in and they can use the zero entry thresholds that we put in for grant just as easily, because our father-in-law is now with a walker. And then we look at it from down the road when Benny and I, this is our forever home, we looked at that we could age in place. So we made it so that it's a two-story house. Right now we're able to access the second floor, but there will probably become a day when we will have to be on the first floor. So we made it to where we can age in place in that house. And that's kind of what I look at universal design as. You know, it can be generational. It can also be according to someone's mobility needs.
Great to live at your house, but it's very, very
He lives here in Atlanta, and we live in South Alabama. He comes when he can, but he's a pretty busy young man right now, so not as often as we would like. The house that was there previously, we kind of put a Band-Aid on for when he would come to visit, and it was not ideal at all. He could not, we had to put a day bed downstairs for him to sleep at night. We had to basically turn a closet downstairs into a toilet. Basically all that was in there. His shower was outside, so we had to push him inside the house by a ramp. So we wanted to make sure that, you know, he, as he grows his family, can come down there, you know, with hopefully his future spouse and grandchildren and all of that, and we can all enjoy the house without him feeling like he is, you know, this house was not designed with him in mind.
So that's what I would, in a word, it's independence, right? The thing that, to be kind of quick about it, we understand as a design community the ADA, which is a law, right? And it's a set of rules and guidelines and all of that, but I would look at it, I think universal design opens it beyond that. And Sarah mentioned it earlier, we coined the phrase shepherd accessible, and that's exactly what we learned, that ADA doesn't cut it, right? And it doesn't work for everybody, and it doesn't work specifically for some situations, right? It is a set of rules, and it's a good starting place, right? But then you have to listen and think, how can you make it better? And that's where universal design will come in.
Awesome, Jan. Thank you. Very nice. Thank you, everybody. This next question kind of is designed for John and Chris for their experiences, but feel free if you want to jump in. At Shepherd, y'all spent your careers working directly with people navigating disability every day. What do designers miss when they design? What do designers often miss when they design for people instead of designing with people who are the people they're trying to help?
The individualism, the complexities of real life. Again, it kind of goes back to the ADA. The ADA is a good guideline, a good start, but there's plenty of people that have disabilities that cannot navigate even ADA compliant areas. So by working with clients, you get to see their real world, listening to them, observing them, seeing how they navigate them, and they are experts in navigating the real life and the tricks and trades and tips that they've figured out how to get to a restaurant bathroom and in those stalls. You know, they can figure it out, and by involving them from the get-go, you're going to have a better product in the end, by not just going by a guideline, but by observing the people who actually have to navigate that environment. Although one caveat I will say, and this is what we run across a lot at Shepherd, is that one person is not the end-all be-all. People think that one person in the wheelchair has the answers to everything because they're in a wheelchair. In my world, it's a wheelchair, right? Not cognitive issues and stuff like that. And that can be dangerous sometimes. I think you have to get a wide scope, look at a wide scope of disabilities and needs to get the overall picture, because one person, their life works for them, and if you build around that, you're going to miss a whole bunch of other things that you could have acknowledged.
Well said. I'm not sure I have much to add to that, except that I do think that, again, we should highlight the fact that sometimes you're designing a home, well, in this case, for multiple people, but multiple people that you know, right? And so if you're a product designer that you want that to a mass market audience, well, then you do have to design kind of broadly for a group of people. But at the same time, as we know from our patient population, that many have very unique needs. And so again, you've got to navigate this situation with, like, what are you designing exactly? Is it a mass market product? Is it a physical space? Is it a customized physical space? In all of those cases, that you do, a designer and a developer, a product developer, does need to engage the population, because there are things, you can make some assumptions about a population, even a disability population, and you might be overgeneralizing, or you might miss something that you thought you knew, but you really do have to engage the potential users for that. We have an example, and Dr. Kai back there from Georgia Tech and I are conducting a kind of a tech feasibility study in one of our new apartments. And we had set up all our tech, and we did a tour of these apartments, and they're designed to be accessible. There's roll-under sinks, there's no carpeting anywhere in the place, wide doorways, good grab handles for the pocket doors, etc. And we went into the bathroom with one of our participants, and it's got lots of big space to access the commode and with grab bars. And one of the participants, and the mom and the daughter, said, well, this would not work for a stroke survivor, right, the daughter. This would not work for our daughter. And it had tons of space and grab bars, and we thought, what gives, right? So, and what we discovered, and we thought we knew the stroke population, and we thought that apartments were well designed for the stroke, for people with mobility challenges. And they said, well, there's too much space, actually. And the grab bars and the person had hemiparesis along the other side, but you approach the commode from a different side. And so there was kind of an interesting example of like thinking we were designing for all. We had, Scott and his team, I guess, I'm not sure if he designed those apartments, had all those things in mind. Sorry, I don't mean to call you out there.
Tell everybody.
but it just goes to say, that, wow, you really do have to engage the user population. So I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's to the discussion. Keep going. I don't know.
I just have a pro tip that I've learned over the years, is that if you are observing somebody, maybe you're doing it for a specific house for a specific person, not only do you talk to them, but you observe how they move. Because a lot of people that live in wheelchairs cannot describe to you how they use their space to function. They can't put it into words, they just do it. And you'll miss, if you observe them and watch them, they're not going to put it into words, but you can catch stuff just by seeing how they function.
Thank you very much. Excellent points. So this one is kind of for Scott and Lisa, but then again, Chris, John, feel free. When accessibility is considered late in a project, what opportunities are often lost or missed that could have improved the experience for everyone? And when in the project schedule should accessibility be considered? And how does this timing affect the experience for everyone?
You have it.
Again, going back to, we just recently built a home. Previous to that, we had renovated 2 condos when we moved to Atlanta. And when we first bought the condo for Grant immediately to come home from Shepparton, he was in a power chair. Power chairs have larger, footprints and everything. He was able to progress to a manual chair, smaller. So that kind of affected our decision making as we went through this process. But I will say, every time we could only do so with what was more or less in existence. Early on with our build, we were able to get Grant involved, meeting with our architect. He was able to talk about the turn dimensions, for the wheelchair and different things that he would need. And even from a contractor side, I think our contractor appreciated the fact of us engaging early with him, because there were reinforcements that needed to be put behind walls or grab bars and things. And so we were able to do a lot more thoughtfully early on versus either coming into a renovation or putting Band-Aids like I described earlier. We really had a lot of freedom when it came to the early decision making, helped us as we went along with our build.
The ideal thing would be during programming, right? When you're starting from trash paper and bubble diagrams, right? That would be ideal. To the point, if it's a renovation, then you have to figure out how are you going to modify what you've got. It's part of one of the things that we just toured, right? Is what are the things that you can adapt to environments that you have, right? And a lot of the patients here and the patients' families had a new reality at home, right? So they had to go, when they got home, what could they do, right? To modify a sink, modify doorways, right? So there's, ideally it'd be at the beginning, but then at night you just, or if it's not possible, then you just have to evaluate.
Right. Oh, yeah, please come up, have a seat. I was just gonna say, who's the first
I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Lisa.
Lisa, what, besides an accessible bathroom and sink, what is the best thing that you have found that you guys have created for your son that you wouldn't have known about before? Like lowering things, kind of.
Probably for him, because,
Thank you.
with our other house, when Grant would arrive, he could drive with adaptations that you heard about in the driving clinic. He would able to get there, but from the moment he got out of his truck, we had to assist him getting into the house. We had to assist him getting out of the house. So we wanted it to be from the moment he got there that he could get out. So we made it to where he could just roll right on in. There were no steps out front. We made it to where, again, 0 entry thresholds, wide doorways. We will occasionally have to move a piece of furniture a little bit just to give him a little bit clearer path. And that's something to consider when you are designing, I think, for public spaces, because, you know, when Grant goes to a restaurant or somewhere, and I know this is the case for probably a lot of users, you might have a bathroom that you will be able to get into, but the path there is going to be, you know, you're going to have to ask people to move chairs or seats. So consider wider pathways accessing, you know, bathrooms and things like that. So we tried to just make it to where it was pretty seamless for him. A microwave in our other house, and even where he lives now, microwaves were put up above stoves. You know, you certainly don't want to be taking hot things out of a microwave. Even he can't stand, but limited arm function. So hard to grab things. So we put a microwave down at his level. We keep glassware where he can access those if he wants to make himself a cocktail or something. So just trying from all of those, from the moment he gets there to the moment he goes to bed, he can, with the smart technology, turn off lights, he can, all of that.
Thank you for being brave. See, it was painless, right? Okay, well, I'm going to ask another question. Go ahead, have a seat. For John Morris. Some of the best design solutions are nearly invisible. Can you share examples where thoughtful design improved usability without making it obvious it's an accessibility? It's for accessibility.
Yeah, an example I've often thought about, and actually visiting Georgia Tech's campus, is, and this might sound a little serious, but those emergency call buttons on those posts, you don't need an instruction manual to know how that thing works. And maybe it's a simple operation, it's not a complex device really, but you know it, you see it, you recognize it, and you know how to use it with that immediately. And if you do need to use it, you're going to need to use it immediately. And that is something that I think is such an elegant design, really. It's intuitive. It's, you know, what designers might call affordance. So you recognize how a thing works just by sort of experiencing it, without any sort of having to sort of think much about how to work it. So that, I think, is a great example. Something a bit more complex, I was thinking about this, because David shared the questions before. A ways back, I bought some porch furniture. Couch, love seat, and 2 chairs. And it came in the box, et cetera, and it assembled like amazingly quickly. And because I am a researcher in product design, I recognized just how elegant this furniture was. It had a base that was already pre-assembled. It had 2 arms, but the arms were the same arm. Like the left and the right, they weren't different. So you could plug either arm on either side. So it was, you know, had high tolerance for error, or no error. The seat back also, you could turn it either way and it would seat perfectly the way it should in the chair. And there were no tools required, so it was low effort. And I thought, wow, these designers might, you know, either they know something about accessibility and disability, or it's just darn good design. And it was really impressive. And it didn't call out, it wasn't like, hey, this is designed for people who might have cognitive or physical impairments to assemble. It just happened. It was seamless, and it was really a beautiful thing.
Awesome, thank you. John, thank you. then I know let's go back to the last topics.
Yeah, sorry, I came up a bit late, so I'll just take this about briefly. But regarding the previous question, in regards to helping people who, like maybe they're in the space, it's already built, they need to modify it, right? How have knowledge resources started built to assist these people and developed, over time, like, are they there, has it been better? And, whether or not, they exist or not. How can we, or, what improvements can basically, what improvements can basically be made to sort of better equip people to, sort of make do with what they have?
It's an excellent question. It's a hard question, actually. There are not a lot of resources. I mean, everything's on YouTube, right? But there's not like a place other than this place. Do you know of any place where people go and, like, I'm in this new situation, how do I modify a sink? I don't know of one. So there's a business opportunity. There's a business opportunity. I think, John, I think you're onto something. It's a great question, and there aren't a lot of resources. It actually, Stephanie, where's Stephanie? There she is. She asked me that same question, like, where do I go to learn about what is accessible, like what is universal design, and the resources are pretty thin, honestly. So we should talk afterwards.
John, did you want to add anything to that or share some of the resources and things that you do?
Well, I was thinking more about in the space of home modification, et cetera, et cetera. There are a few folks that we know, Debbie, in our professional society, the American Congress of Rehab Medicine, folks that we know who do this sort of modifications, and they work with OTs. And one gentleman, now I can't remember his name, but we saw him most recently we went to CES and we saw him there as well. And he's got a national company that engages builders in local areas, and they've, fully informed, and these people have got these builders have been vetted and trained by him, and he basically then serves as a central referral site for home modification. And so there is a business opportunity there. He's in that space, and he's been quite successful. And it's Rosarian Health is the name of the company, Rosarian Health. But again, that's just one individual. Yes, he's been pretty successful, but there's probably more need and more opportunity out there.
Great, thank you. So we hear, some of the considerations, start early, talk to the people that you're serving, that you're working with, get their insights. But how do we move this conversation from compliance to value? And what are the business, organizational, or market benefits of designing more inclusively?
You did cheat with the questions for us, which was nice.
Thanks for the assist.
Yeah. So I did some homework because I thought about it from a business perspective, right? And 1% of the population, so that's we have 340 million people in the U.S. Okay, so 1% are in wheelchairs consistently, right? 14% are in wheelchairs for a time period or part-time, if you will. So there's full-time and part-time. So I'm not a calculus professor, but I did the math, and that it's like 57 million people. Hang on. 47 million people use wheelchairs part-time. That's a pretty big audience, right? So if you think about it from a target market, from a design perspective, that's a big portion, right? The other thing that to get beyond, people have injuries and all of that, and brain and spine and all of that, right? But then there's also the whole aging in place. It came up earlier, right? And so I also researched that there are 20% of that 340 million people, which is easier math. It's times 2. Yeah, right. So that is the current baby boomer generation is 20%. And so as they should be into retirement and they're getting older. I have older parents. And so it's an opportunity. Well, my dad just passed, but I watched them, and the dignity thing that we're talking about and the independence thing, I watched directly, personally, and it was brutal from an aging in place standpoint. So all the things that we're talking about apply to that whole market. 78 million people.
Okay, anything? Okay, so we're nearing to the end. So if you have an issue that's not been brought up, please come on up. They didn't bite. I know. I mean, Chris might have. Please come on up. Yay,
Are you worried? I'm Scott's wife. Okay, so we're designers. Most of the people in this room are associated with this industry. So I have a question for the people here. Rebecca, you have to participate, and Sarah, you have to participate, and anyone else from Shepherd. We're here to see this building, see the technology, see what's been created. What is your single favorite design element within the building?
Well, that's you really put me on the spot. It could be the smart toilet, but let's see, what else? Well, the single favorite design is all the windows, and we were talking about this earlier, is that, access to nature, viewing nature, being in nature is therapeutic. And it's also, I think, hopefully leads to greater productivity among the staff, but I don't know if it does. But I would say that the views.
The neuron.
And I would say, and this is one that when we arrived at Shepherd, we were from South Georgia, so this became home for us. And so much has changed in the 10 years since we first arrived. But one thing that Shepherd and the designers and everyone has tried to still make it feel like a home environment. And yes, it's beautiful and shiny and all, but when you go to some of the places where the families stay and where they get together with other families and they have their moments to fall apart, all of that was addressed. My husband, when he was having to work remotely, he needed a space sometimes to take a quick work call or get on his computer. And things have been designed with that in mind, just so that you can step away and have a moment. We can celebrate a birthday. So they take into consideration all of what a patient and their families are missing out on in their lives they left behind. And they've tried to put that here, and it's evident in the gardens, and it's evident in the rooms and the apartments, and just in the common meeting spaces. So that would be the thing that I have loved from the moment we were first introduced to Shepherd, is that you don't necessarily feel like you are in a sterile hospital environment. You feel like you are in a home and you are surrounded by people who love you and who want you to succeed and improve and have the best life possible.
So that was very meaningful. I'm going to take a lighter view on that. Rebecca, I love the flipping light fixtures in every elevator lobby. I love them. And the different wallpaper on every lobby. But still blue, I love blue. It's my favorite color. It is. I love it every day. I love it. But my favorite thing, and my department, is making the, and you've done this everywhere, making the floor be part of the functional space instead of using unnecessarily vertical spaces to block up the space, I guess. Yeah, that obstacle course, those things, I thought that was brilliant.
There's actually a pattern that Jennifer in the back laid out that measures gate down the hallway, and it's very intentional, but it's integrated so that you don't see it, doesn't jump out at you, right? Until it's explained to you, back to the invisible thing and universal, you would never know it's there until it's explained and you can use it as a tool.
Welcome, Rebecca. Thank you. What's your favorite?
Oh, my favorite thing is this space, and honestly, my favorite part of this is hearing the patients and the staff love this facility. That is my absolute favorite thing. It's the most rewarding. But hopefully I didn't take yours.
No, you kind of took mine, but I would say this came from Alana. Healthcare doesn't have to look like healthcare. And I think that was one of the biggest things coming into this, is that it doesn't have to look like a hospital. It doesn't have to look like a space that looks like that. It can be warm and inviting and interesting. And we worked really hard to make every space have its own kind of feeling, and every floor looks different, and that was completely intentional.
And I'll say, what I told Chris earlier, the seating clinic that we were in, which was not the basement, so it wasn't even that, but it was the small pyramid. And I said, you felt almost like it was in a diary, we're putting these things together. And I said, seeing the new seating clinic, which we have not seen, is almost like you're going into a fancy car dealership. I felt like, when you're going in there, you are going to be picking out your Rolls Royce of a wheelchair. So I'm excited for Grant, and he'll be getting a new chair soon, and for him to get to experience that.
So mine is, there was a brief moment where I was in charge of gardens and art. Alana Shepard was like, that's right, it's a really bad idea on so many fronts. I need to be in charge of fundraising and marketing. That's what I do. But meeting with Rebecca and Scott and Alana, there's a garden when you leave, if you look out of the building, and it is so intentional for every type of patient and family we see, from the nooks and crannies that are there, to literally the plants, to the music art that is there, to the visual art. And I love walking out and seeing families grilling out. And I got to see a young lady stand up and hug her mom for the first time. And it happened in the garden. And those gardens are sacred spaces, because healthcare doesn't have to look cold. It can be warm.
Somebody got married in the garden.
Yes, they did, with two of our facility dogs as the assistant. On the coldest day in January. It was good times. Yeah, well, it was like, you've thought that through too.
Awesome. Thank you. So for designers who want to become leaders in inclusive and human-centered design, where should they start? So there might be people here who are thinking, I want to do that. The question is, for designers who want to become leaders in inclusive and human-centered design, where do they start?
Volunteering is a fantastic, I don't know who said that, but that's a fantastic point. You need to listen and learn and observe to this whole discussion. Jump in. You're not going to see it in a book. You're not going to see it on a video on YouTube. You need to experience it. And there is nothing better than volunteering. It's a fantastic idea.
I agree completely. As an undergraduate, the first summer after my freshman year, I volunteered at the Marcus Institute, which is for kids with developmental disabilities, specifically autism, stuff like that. And I volunteered in the early intervention program. So it was with kids that were 5 years of age and younger. And that was such a huge learning experience for me. I only volunteered like 4 hours a day, but I would go home and immediately just pass out because I was so tired, because there are just so many things you don't think about, and you don't get that experience, or you don't understand it until you've actually lived that experience, even if it's just for a few hours a day. So volunteer definitely is a good thing.
And I would say, talk to someone who, this would address their needs. And if you ever are in a situation and you need someone, call Shepherd. They will be glad to put you in touch with patients to talk to you. And I talked to my son about some of the questions, And he said that was the first thing, talk to someone, ask us what we need, what it looks like for us, you know. And so I, would just say, again, if you are at a loss for somebody, call Shepherd, they'll put you in touch with many people.
Perfect segue. So the thing that I wanted to just throw in was when we did this building and we had focus groups and we listened, Sarah set them up, Rebecca and I, that we listened and we didn't assume that we knew the answer. So lean into that. If you don't know. And so we listened to what they had to say, and we learned a ton of things, obviously. But that's part of the success of the project, is that we did our homework. Right.
Do you want to go ahead and ask a question?
Yes, so my question is, so we talk about aging in place and we talk about people with functional limitations. What about the combination of the two? People that are already disabled in some way, that are then aging and adapting their environment for whatever that change might bring. And I guess that kind of goes along with another thing that I was thinking about, and that's how with some conditions, your abilities change from day to day or from minute to minute. It's not consistently, I cannot do this. Some days I can do this, some days I can't. So just what are your thoughts on that and the changing nature of it?
To me, that speaks about the inclusivity of designing, the adaptation of the environment, and anticipating those moments, especially if you're designing for a specific person who has a fluctuating ability like that. You build that in from the front end, like you have the ability to do all sorts of different things depending on the type of day, time of day, your physical abilities and all that kind of stuff, which is not easy.
It goes to home observing too.
Yes. Yeah, observing the person, seeing them in all those phases. If they have times or saying that they have these moments, trying to be there with them and seeing what changes and what might need to be thought about ahead of time.
Thank you. So we'll have one, tell Mr. Chance. We're gonna have one more. We're gonna have one more question. Yes.
Yeah.
Fine, you can take one with me. Because you were great. And then I'll have one closing question, okay? So.
Sounds good. So it's less of a question, more of a comment. So earlier when we talked about the experience of the building, so I'm a faculty at the School of Architecture at Georgia Tech, so I teach healthcare design. So it's really nice to see the design and see a lot of evidence-based design feature or implemented throughout. A lot of thoughtful detail, but very quiet, as you say, very subtle, but it's there to support patient and staff experience, right? The wayfinding, as I earlier mentioned, a different floor, different color, and the dignity really is reflected in every little detail. So that's my perception I want to share. And then in terms of how to train future designers, as my role as an educator, I just want to say our experience working with Shepherd has been great. We involved our students in the process just by talking to family, talking to patient who have gone through the process, really enlighten our student to remove a lot of assumption and help them to develop much more empathetic design and human-centered design to really influence how they approach design in the future, in their entire career, whether they're designed to a healthcare setting or a home setting, right? It's really everywhere, or a public space. So one last thing I was thinking is related to our project. Maybe it's a question for is so now we see the beautiful smart home demo lab earlier. What is the future of smart home technology and healthcare or home design in the future? How do you see that influence the way designers approach future design projects?
John, that's you.
Thank you, Dr. Kay. So I think I would say, one of the things we've been challenged with in our tech feasibility component of our study is that we're kind of using off-the-shelf commercial devices and sensors and cameras, and it's not integrated. And of course, we're exploring, so it's fine as a research exploration study, but I think the future is I just think we need better integration of the technologies. And I'm distinguishing that from the physical spaces, but if you're going to have a smart home, by golly, it better be pretty smart, right? And talk, integrated. And so I think that's a real challenge. The downside of that is that we see the rapid pace of technology development. And, I remember doing a remodel of my small cave-style cottage in Decatur many years ago. And we got the latest, greatest sort of Cat5 cabling for, so that we could plug into the wall any sort of cabled. This was before Wi-Fi was broadly available. And then it was like, okay, that's all junk, we're not even use it. And then then we moved into another house, it was new build, and it had like fully integrated ports all over the place, similarly, and we don't use them. And so the challenge is like, you want I think integration, but how do you achieve that integration when the technology is moving so fast?
Thank you. Okay, last question, really quick answers, thank you. You're welcome to stay if you want. No? Okay. If you could change one thing tomorrow about how we design homes, workplaces, healthcare environments, or community spaces, what would it be? Yes. You just want to there. If you could change one thing tomorrow about how we design homes, workplaces, community spaces, and healthcare facilities, what would it be?
So
This is an amazing question and a very challenging question. The thing that I came up with is to incorporate these elements so that they are invisible, right? And there are a lot of elements that you can think through. The best example that I could come up with, you said to be short, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry. So the best example that we discovered in the focus groups was doors. Doors are incredibly challenging. And if you think about it, the one example that I thought of as doors.
Materials, I would say, materials that are with doors. They're functional, but they're lighter weight. That is a challenge. But also, I do love that aesthetically, finishes are looking warmer and not so sterile for residential. It's nice to have things that they're functional for someone who needs a grab bar, but they're pretty.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm going to just echo that sentiment is that, we live and thrive by being in beautiful spaces. And it is therapeutic. And so I don't know if that's something that needs to be changed, but it's a goal that we should reach for, certainly. And that's Chris.
I'd say include accessibility in every design. I think all of us need accessibility at some point. It's not just people with disabilities. It should be within every design. It should be included.
Oh, beautiful way to end. Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for your attention and participation. Thank you for well, and Rebecca and Jennifer. CWC. I said ASID for sure, thinking of ASID, but also CWC. That was it. CWC for a sponsor. Thank you so much.